Yeah, welcome back to Star Spangled Gamblers. This is King Dog. I'm your host. This is our sad podcast. Very sad podcast. That's Zoltar. Zoltar, what are you sad about? We're usually talking about being winners and smart. We're a bunch of losers.
You know, I've had hot streaks in this political gambling game, and right now we are definitely in the middle of a ice cold streak. And the tip of that iceberg, her name is Klobuchar, and she's just kneecapped me. If this was Mortal Kombat, there'd be a fatality.
Fatality.
Right over so many face. Powerful metaphors, Zoltar. Kneecaps, icebergs, Mortal Kombat, face rippings. Pratik, are you sad? Have you been taking out your rage on helpless creatures, or I don't know. I just want to know if you're okay. I saw you post all those things about maxing out on Amy Klobuchar to be vice president.
Don't forget the 1 cent president move. That was on that.
Maxing out against every black woman in the VP race. Have you attempted suicide? Is everything right at home?
Well, to be clear, I never maxed out on Klobuchar. I was until recently maxed out on the African-American candidates. But to answer your question, no, I don't feel emotion.
Have you been reading any like Robert?
Is that just in general, or is that
especially aggressively?
What was that?
Have you been ripping the pages out of novels aggressively, or I'm just our users want to know what you do to express emotion?
No, I don't feel it in the first place.
Do you get pissed off, Pratik?
I don't know.
Like if someone cuts you off on the road, you give them one of these?
Oh, I don't. I actually stopped driving because I got into so many accidents. I figured the odds weren't looking good over the long term.
I don't think I would let you drive me anywhere, Pratik, and I've only met you in the flesh twice, but I will follow you anywhere, including into doubling down on Amy Klobuchar as the vice president after the Minneapolis George Floyd situation.
Well, one of the worst parts about the VP market was often one of the delights of PredictIt is when you have a losing position, you can figure it out pretty soon and minimize the damage. But on this one, I basically took it the wrong way the entire time. I waited till she got down to 4 cents. I doubled up, got some more, and basically did a full max out loss on her. Now I have about, 10,000 shares that are worth nothing. I can't even sell them if I wanted to. Not to mention,
couldn't give them away.
Not to mention the 10,000 shares I have her getting president for 1 cent, which was also I'm left holding the bag on that one. So this was a true brutal massacre in this market.
The fields are burning.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? Yeah. You know what? I will say this: never listen to me when I talk about elections. Just listen to me when I talk about legal markets.
Well, I think we're gonna sing a sad song about that later too.
Yes, like we said, it's a cold streak for the Zoltar.
It's funny. If you're just joining us for the first time, I see new faces. Proverbially, I see your new faces all the time on Star Spangled Gamblers. We've been pumping really hard on this blog and on this podcast that we're against contrary wisdom. We think Joe Biden's going to rebuild the 2018 Democratic coalition of suburban women and overeducated people, and he's going to say, fuck that, to sort of woke identity politics. Well, let me tell you, we were wrong.
Yeah.
And people told us we were wrong, and there were signs that we were wrong.
Well, but wait a minute. Were we wrong on the full thesis or only on Klobuchar?
Well, how wrong can you be when you look, the coronavirus came and every city in the country has been like demonstration, burned, looted, like
I will say this. I will say this. That. If you look at the autopsy report over our dead bodies, who could have predicted that Amy Cobb would be part of the district attorney's office that let a cop go who ended up murdering some guy on television that then created national riots for a month? That's a pretty hard one to predict. So I'm okay taking that loss. But, again, with the VEEP markets, there's always just random shit like that can come in and kill you.
I felt like the lessons that I'm taking from this is like one, cut your losses. Don't try and be too clever. But two, I've been saying on this podcast that like my strategy this whole time has been flip, 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 flip. And I got a little too cocky and I started flipping like, you know, you can flip the 5-cent side or the 95-cent side or the 30-cent side or the 70-cent side. And I started flipping the 70-cent sides of Kamala Harris knows. And then, boom! So like, I feel like, have you guys seen Band of Brothers? Zoltar, I know you like Band of Brothers, right?
Oh yeah. I'll watch any war movie.
Do you remember the scene where like Damian Lewis stumbles on the German camp while they're like getting dressed for the day and he just like calls it? Is that a Rammstein song?
No, that's from
Das ist Amerikaner.
That's from Die Hard. Shoot the glass.
U-boat. Let's get in the U-boat. Yeah, and then like all the bombs hit and everyone gets blown up. Like that's basically what happened to me. Like the George Floyd thing happened.
We got boxed in the corner. We got massacred. It was ugly. It was an ugly, ugly day for the SSG.
They're going to write folk songs, like sad, sad folk songs about drowning yourself in a river outside of Chattanooga about this fucking loss. Like this is just brutal.
Yeah.
So are you guys not holding no shares on Demings anymore?
I've never held a position on her.
I'm completely shell-shocked. I'm just trying to say myself, if this was the movie The Titanic, I would be dressed as a woman trying to get in one of the lifeboats and pushing some old lady off the edge to get me another spot.
Ready on the left.
The only thing I'm holding on to is no Stacey Abrams, no Elizabeth Warren, and no Kamala Harris. Everything else, I am ejecting and taking my hits because this was a bloodbath, and I'm just gonna try to survive.
That's still pretty bold of you.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, why still short on Kamala? That's the only position that I really adjusted.
I just don't think Biden and her jive. I don't think what do you call it? Simpatico? I don't think that she passes the simpatico test.
I don't know that, like, look, I always thought that Biden was going to pick someone who he wanted to be president and thought he could set up to be president, but I don't know that any of that shit matters anymore. It seems like we're like full tilt boogie max out on like what is the correct identity politics coalition right now.
Well, so that's the question. What is the right identity politics coalition? I mean, I think the rational thing for Biden to do, and I continue to think this even after the Klobuchar pick, would be to make sure that he can not jeopardize or ideally shore up independents, suburban women, et cetera, the people who the Democrats won over in 2018. So I guess the question is who that'll be. I mean, the reason why I no longer am holding no shares on Kamala is because I think, I mean, barring a major catastrophe for her, I think she'll be in the very final round. But I don't think that would be the rational choice at all. Now, that doesn't mean Biden won't do it.
Who would be?
But, I mean, I'm buying 1 cent shares on Gina Raimondo. I'm not going crazy on that, but I think that someone like her would fit the bill. So I'm willing to pay 1 cent for that. I don't think that the list of people, I think there will be another crop of people who get vetted that we haven't really heard of yet.
Yeah, we still got a lot of time. He said he'd give the announcement by August 1st.
But look, I mean, I think we have at least 2 to 3 weeks before we're really in the final vetting phase, and a lot could change in terms of race relations right now. I think my own view right now is that we're at a high point in terms of public support for Black Lives Matter. And if this begins to drift in a direction where like memorials and statues are coming down everywhere and Congress finds a way to work together on police reform, I don't think we're too far from a point where the left overreaches and we end up seeing some kind of pushback in white America. To think that won't have any bearing whatsoever on the VP nominee, it might not, but I'm not ready to make that bet yet.
I mean, I don't know. Incentives in politics are so short-termed. And, it could be the case that inside of like HQ Joe Biden, like, so what? It's going to be August. People are still going to be out in the streets with their kind of like Mao's red books of social justice. And Joe Biden's going to be like, I'm picking Elizabeth Warren.
I agree with Zoltar. I think Warren's going to be a hard pick, especially after Klobuchar's parting shot.
Yeah, did you see her give her a little diggy dig on the way out?
A little shiv in her back.
That's awesome. Go
But
Club.
there's another point here that we haven't talked about. One of the things, if you notice, right after the George Floyd thing, the knives really came out for Klobuchar. We haven't really seen that happen yet with both Kamala and Val Demings. But I have a hard time believing that if it really looks like they're the finalists, that there won't be at least a couple of news cycles of people.
But who's going to be the stab? Like, who's going to be the killer? You know, like you got to have someone to, you know, stick the knife in.
Trump.
Well, yeah, in the general.
Oh, but you don't think they have rivals within the Democratic Party?
On the press.
Who? I mean, like, I feel like everyone, the country right now is like litigating whether or not one of our original sins was Aunt Jemima. Like, I feel like there's so much. Like, for everyone watching this, there's a sincere reason why we're having this conversation. And I'm not trying to undercut that. But, like, if the Republican Party is tiptoeing around identity issues and, like, kind of backing off of the, well, you know, it's a state's right to have a Confederate flag. Or, like, if that's what the Republican Party is doing, which I don't think it's ever done, why would we think that the Democratic Party would want to have that? Like, would want to trash, like, black women who've risen to the top?
So I think there are a couple different people who would do that. I think number one is Elizabeth Warren. I mean, when has she ever been shy about criticizing Democrats? Yeah. I think the other is just other rivals for the job who want to take out their rivals. I think the third camp are left-wing Democrats who are intellectually honest and know that both Demings and Harris have been on the wrong side of criminal justice reform for a long time. And then I think the final camp would be moderate and or strategic Democrats who recognize and agree with the argument we're making that even if you like Harris and Demings personally, that they may not be solving Biden's political problem.
But to what end? Like, who? I guess it's like, well, what's their objective? It seems pretty clear to me that, like, these people aren't going to pump themselves into vice presidential consideration. Like, look at the Kentucky primary, like my home state. By the way, very nervous about that because I've got money on Amy McGrath winning. But the attitude is so, like, YOLO, max out on social justice reform. Who has the balls to, like, publicly desecrate Kamala Harris and Val Demings? Like, what Democrat? I mean, that's your career to bet on right now. And that's really, really, really pushing against public sentiment and media trend and all of that. Am I just fucking raving? Am I an idiot?
I mean, you might be right, but I think that Kamala Harris's record as a prosecutor was litigated to some degree during the Democratic primary. I think it would have been much more so if she had actually taken off. And if it really looks like it's down to her and a couple other candidates, especially in this cycle.
But one important thing to note is that it was brought up by Tulsi Gabbard, not the press. The press had that info. They chose not to run with it. So will they run with it if they find something out this cycle?
Tulsi Gabbard fucking suicide bombed her in, I think it was Detroit or whatever it was. That was more brutal than our losses.
I mean, you don't think that there are left-wing reporters right now who are only now hearing about Val Demings and whatever their bias is, they don't have a professional incentive to go out to Florida and dig up every skeleton from the
No, not Demings. I'm talking about Harris. I think that they have the goods on Harris, but the press isn't going to drop it.
But I'm asking, like, what's their goal?
I think the goal would be partly they want to take out Kamala Harris, partly because they have an ideological agenda, which is a true believing criminal justice reform. And then the final incentive would be a professional one on the part of journalists that they have to do their job. They have to
find the big story.
Yeah.
Journalism's dead.
Look, here's
journalism
the
is
lesson.
better than disco.
This is, in theory, this is a podcast about betting on politics. And right now we're talking about why we've lost a lot of money betting on this particular market. And like how much longer can the three of us trip over ourselves with these weird, abstruse explanations for why we're losing money? Like, the fact of the matter is we've lost money and we're fucking cuck losers.
We got pwned.
Yeah.
Market pwned, Star Spangled Gamblers. It's official.
I mean, just to respond to that, though, I think what we have to figure out is, why exactly did we lose money? And I think there are two competing theories right now. One is that we simply didn't recognize how bad things would get for Amy Klobuchar individually, or the other explanation is that we're fundamentally reading the dynamics of this election wrong. I think the first is absolutely true. I think the second one remains an open question.
Well, tune in next week, folks. Zoltar, this is our funeral episode. We're fucking really sad, like so sad.
So this is another episode of First. I am going to withdraw last week's marker board pick for the Mazars market. Recent Supreme Court decision. Roberts stuck it to Trump on DACA. I'm now of the opinion that the Supreme Court has it out for Trump. So the Mazars, if you remember, that's the one where they're going after his tax records and financials. The law is they shouldn't be able to do that without some type of balancing test. But what I've seen with this Supreme Court is they kind of put a little more politics in their decisions than they do the law. So I am now no longer considering that
politicizing the court. There's so many hot takes coming tonight.
If I had the marker board right now, I would just erase it because the Mazars pick is off. I took my position from 800 down to 200, and there's also. Did you punch through the marker board in rage? Is that an expression of your sadness? Yes, I was very confident on Mazars, but then the other thing I missed is when I listened to the Mazars oral argument, there was only one issue. But if you look at their brief, there's a one-page throwaway argument that they do at the very end that they didn't even address in the oral argument. So that also could be enough for them to do affirmative part. But there's still a shot that they say it's a political question and punt, and then then the marker board pick will be a winner. But it's no longer a lock. I don't have the 80% confidence I had in it last week. So, like I said, I took my position from 800 down to 200, and I'm fully expecting that 200 to lose. So I would suggest everyone else eject. I would suggest you sell those $200 worth of shares. Is what I would do. It was at 50 cents, and now it's at like 38 cents. So this is how it happens, dude. When you just keep chasing it, when you're like, oh, there's one more pump coming, like there's one more headline, and then it just doesn't come, and you're sell. Yeah, it's no longer a lock. Shares. Take it off. Get out while you can. That's right. But subscribe to our podcast and sponsor us because like we're geniuses. Well, up until this last month, I think we did okay. You know, I had actually written the blog post like 2 weeks ago that was like, this is what pissing excellence feels like. It's like still in my drafts folder. And I was like listing all the lines that we just crushed since Super Tuesday when this powerful force of nature that is the three of us met for the first time. Check out our gambling gods. The gambling gods always win, though. They'll always get you. Boy, we got knocked off the top of Mount Olympus this week. Humble pie. Pratik, are you sad about anything else?
No, I already answered that.
You're just sad about life.
No, I don't feel normal emotions.
Have you ever? I've asked you this one way, but I'm going to be a good journalist and continue to ask it in other ways. Have you ever tried to discover any feelings of emotion by like harming things?
No, I mean, I have thought about maybe like going on a hunger fast in front of the IRS or something, but I don't know. I probably wouldn't do that. Yeah. Did you
ever go to a casino and gamble?
I played poker, but I don't know. Is that gambling?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think lawyers actually litigate that question about whether or not poker is gambling. So, Caesar's
never did roulette or slots or BJ.
No.
BJ.
Where? Blackjack.
You go to a little BJ table.
Get your head out of the gutter.
Get your head somewhere else. What's up with Rudy Giuliani, by the way? I've been busy working like real job shit, and apparently there's a new conspiracy theory in the Southern District of New York, or is it like real?
I've heard nothing about this. The last I heard about Giuliani is he was arguing about how many debates he's going to have between Trump and Biden. What's going on?
Isn't some judge up there getting fired, though, or just some?
I don't know. Fill me in, guys.
Yeah, so I mean, late Friday night, basically news broke that the prosecutor in the Southern District of New York, that Barr was supposedly firing him, but then it turned out he refused to resign. Now the report I'm seeing is that maybe Barr might be offering him a new job, or maybe Trump might be firing him.
Job.
So we don't really know as of this.
What does that have to do with Giuliani?
The theory is that Trump might be trying to get rid of him because of his investigations, not only into Trump's financial records and so forth, but also because of his investigations into Giuliani.
Ooh.
So just before we started recording, I bought more no's of Giuliani at
Smart.
80%. I think we're probably in a panic right now.
What's
don't
the
think
price
he's
at
being
right
charged?
now?
I'll have to look it up. I think it dropped into the low 70s last night. So we're
Pull it
okay. Right. Yeah. Right now, Giuliani is up to 21% of a federal charge being confirmed.
Well, I'll buy that.
Yeah, I'm gonna buy no's, right?
Live trade right now. Buy no.
Yeah,
Going in.
yeah. And then I think there's also an opportunity to buy more shares on Bar. There are a couple of markets you can get in on. One is, will he face charges? I bought some at 89. No.
It's 89 cents
For
Jeez.
Bar, yeah. And then you can also pick up Bar shares on him being the next cabinet member to leave. He's up to 8 cents, so you can buy no on him at 91. I'm probably willing to take that also. And then there's the Giuliani
So this is a
pardon
nothing.
market.
Nothing burger.
It's a big nothing. Well, okay,
Well,
but do we think
I think it's significant in the sense that there may be sort of retribution of some sort, or maybe a fear that Trump's tax records and other things are in fact being investigated seriously. But I don't think it's going to come. I don't think it really changes the likelihood.
What are you going to charge Giuliani with?
Yeah.
I don't know, but I'll be interested to see if there's like this prosecutor is offered the ambassadorship of like the Northern Mariana Islands or Lithuania or something, send him to the other side of the earth.
I saw on Twitter some guy pushing a conspiracy theory that like Barr has been involved with illegalities, and now there are going to be a bunch of Hill hearings. So there might be some volatility here, but at least for now, I think we're in a panic phase.
I would think that there's no one who's
Zoltar rule. The news always is overreaction. That's a Zoltar rule.
Yeah. Well, except when we didn't overreact to Amy Klobuchar. It's fucking these rules. Just got iced there. Yeah, I would think that Bill Barr might be like the most. It's funny to me because I feel like the people in the Trump administration who are like maybe the least threatening are the ones that people spend the most conspiracy theories over. He's probably the most professional person that Trump's ever appointed. Like, am I taking crazy pills here?
I have to say, I mean, I read Barr wrong in many ways. I thought that he would get confirmed relatively easily and that he would be a relatively sort of technocratic attorney general. I mean, I think he's actually been the opposite. I've been surprised by the degree to which he's been.
Do you think he's turned into a hack?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely. So I don't think he's going to get pushed out over this. But
well, maybe I'll rescind my comment. I trust your insight on the character of lawyers, since I have no insight on that. Do we have any good news this week?
I got some good news. If by good news you mean bad news, predicted has officially become boring to me.
Oh yeah, it sucks now.
They haven't had a good market in months. Usually, when I was talking to some behind the scenes baseball, when I was talking to K-Dog about doing this pod, I said, there's not really that many markets I get excited about. I don't have to do it every week. And he said, no, but think about it. There is. There's this, and this. And at the time, sure enough, yeah, every couple of weeks something pops up. But we haven't had a rule cuck in forever. The markets seem to just be limited to elections. Like, there's just nothing exciting going on. The only ones I'm watching right now are Flynn, Mazars, and the Fiserv. Like, I don't know. It's kind of depressing.
I definitely
Knock me off the ledge.
I feel like gambling is like, if you can't describe a movie to someone in one sentence, like the movie probably sucks, right? Like, and these gambling markets are like that too. It's like, who's going to have the highest margin of victory or smallest in their Senate rate? Like, it's just, I understand.
Or like some layup markets, some layup markets. Like, where's the Republican convention going to be? Like, how did you not do that one? That would have been a fun one. How many people are going to get killed at the Tulsa rally tonight? That would have been a fun one. Come on.
What's your view on Fiserv? I think it's right at 50-50 right now.
I still think it's a strong Fiserv going down because, like I said before, the movie theaters, the sporting events, the Broadway, the Disney theme parks, the Republican convention, they're all systems go. And I don't think that they're, remember the Nixon JFK debate that was so famous because one guy wore makeup, the other guy didn't. I think that they don't want to have a situation where one guy has a convention like Trump's going to have, which is like overflowing people on the outside looking at the Jumbotron trying to get in. And then here's Sleepy Joe in the middle of some basement with his mask on giving a convention. Like, that's going to be two different realities. I think the visuals are too much, and they're going to have a crowded convention just like the Republicans are doing. But I do see the spike right now is because of
it's just caseloads.
No, because of all the shit they're giving Trump about his Tulsa rally. Like, oh, how dare you do this? And the news is going to follow up, X amount of coronavirus cases spiked in Tulsa.
Coronavirus is over.
Blah, blah, blah.
I don't know. I feel like I've verged on being like a pseudo right-wing hack on this podcast, but I don't really get the feeling that organizing events to dethrone Donald Trump is the type of thing that the media is going to give Joe Biden a hard time about. But it does make me worry that the coronavirus seems to be on the move again and in a big way. But I don't know if we care about that anymore. It might be kind of over.
Yeah, the young people who get it, it's like a flu.
Yeah.
Well, isn't the left-wing narrative now that coronavirus was always real, but it's now okay to expose yourself for social justice?
Well, I know it makes perfect sense though, because it only affects Trump supporters. Only Trump supporters who protest get it, but Trump supporters are usually really old, so the science checks out. There
was a guy, I was watching MSNBC, there was literally a doctor, one of these guys they have on. It was not a parody. He was literally arguing that this is a guy who's been like telling everyone to wear a mask and peddling all of that. He very literally claimed that it's now okay to go out and protest for social justice because inequality is more of a threat to your health than coronavirus. And Brian Williams just sat there like not even arguing against the guy.
Yeah,
so
health officials have officially jumped the shark. I don't think America will ever trust them again. Fauci went on the record and said, when we initially told everyone not to wear masks, we were lying because we just didn't want people to wear masks. So because there was a shortage.
So why do you think though that people aren't? Why hasn't there been more calls for accountability? This isn't like a 9/11 situation, but at the end of the day, we had a 9/11 commission to figure out why no one saw a terrorist attack coming. Why isn't there a comparable call to hold these people accountable?
Well, from who?
The American people who sat in their homes for 3 months.
Because of Zoltar's number one rule, which is everyone is full of shit.
True. That's a good point. Well, but look, like, I don't think. Look, there's nothing like novel about saying that the media is partisan and has a certain viewpoint, but I feel like there has been a call to hold people account. It's just that it comes through Twitter and blogs and stuff that aren't dominated by Anderson Cooper.
Until they get deplatformed.
Sure, but I don't know. I'm out of interesting things to say. I don't want to sound like an idiot, but it's shocking to me. I think, look, like we're sort of at the logical endpoint. I wrote something on the Star Spangled blog about this recently, about how in like politics and thought and policy, like you kind of play the same game until people get hurt, and then you're like, it's like a backyard football game. Like, oh, we can't play anymore. Like Johnny just broke his knee, and like. If you go back 30 years, the Republican Party has been telling people for decades that like government is shitty, its institutions are full of loser failures, like you should not let it get involved in anything because it'll make it worse. And like when you combine that with sort of a Democratic message, more recent, call it like the last 20 years or so instead of 30 or 40, that like American history is kind of shitty and this like we shouldn't be proud of ourselves and our institutions. And like when you put those two messages together, like you create this perfect situation where like no one thinks anything is worth fighting for, and like we're stuck in the year of the revolution or something like that. Like it just seems like both sides have come together to create the perfect storm of shittiness and unrest.
That's pretty wicked times right now, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I will say this: defunding the police has to be the dumbest proposal I've ever heard in the history of politics.
I wish I had a list of other ones.
It's literally the plot of The Purge, except instead of for 24 hours, let's do it forever.
Actually, I can think of one that's dumber, and I bet Pratik can think of 10. The dumbest thing I've ever heard in politics is when the Bush administration wouldn't let Dubai ports buy like interest in harbors in the United States because it was like a Muslim-owned company. I don't know. Can you
That's
do me
pretty
one
bad.
better for Teak?
In terms of dumb things the government has done.
Yeah, terrible.
What's
policy
dumber than
decisions.
saying you should just get rid of the police altogether?
I actually kind of like that idea. I mean, we don't have to talk about it here, but I don't know. I don't think it would be a bad scenario for more privatization of security.
Oh,
but
that's
really,
a different animal than
Yeah.
defunding the police altogether. There's a difference between ratcheting back the police and just removing them altogether. Removing them altogether is the dumbest proposal ever.
Well, you're a lawyer, Zoltar. Defunding the police might just be reducing their appropriation and changing their mission statement.
There is a, I mean, I don't know if you guys followed what's going on in Atlanta with the police just sort of not showing up to work.
The blue flu.
Yeah. I think this is kind of a nightmare in the making for the Democrats. I mean, all these urban Democratic mayors, what are they
Starting to
going to
lose
do?
control.
Yeah.
Blasio is kind of the canary in the coal mine. He's universally hated now. He's up there with Comey.
Look, we're just talking like lunatics. I feel like we're not telling anyone how to bet. Pratik?
Yeah, there were a couple other markets I thought we could cover. I could give an update on Mark Esper, if that would be interesting.
Secretary of Defense.
So the last time we recorded a pod, I recommended buying no on him. No shares on him went up into the 80s. They're now back down to, right now he is at 25%, so you can buy no on him at 75%. I think the reason is that Trump gave an interview to Axios and he declined to say that he has confidence in Esper, and he kind of criticized him and General Milley for not showing up, or basically not being proud of showing up for the attack on the reporters outside of the White House. But I continue to think that it's worth buying no on Esper. He may not survive in a second Trump term, but I think he'll be around at least until the November elections.
All right.
Also, I was going to ask you, Alex, do you have any thoughts on Kentucky, the primary?
Yeah, so again, if you're new to this, I'm a native-born son of Kentucky, living in Southern California. No, we don't do that anymore. Neutral state, Zoltar. My impression that I get from talking to people who are like, party men for the Democratic Party is that people want to go full YOLO. They're like, we're going to lose to Mitch McConnell. Like, we might as well just go like YOLO on this Charles Booker guy, just basically for fun, for like shits and giggles. I think he's got a real movement. He seems to be real. I thought he was completely fake news, but I don't know if he's got enough runway to finish it. So I'm still holding my bet on Amy McGrath winning that primary. If you look up Star Spangled Gamblers, there's an entry in there by me, but which also includes, like, when you're watching the returns come in, how you will be able to quickly decide whether or not she's going to win that. Because there will be the opportunity to see how she performs in certain counties in the state, and that'll give you a really good impression of who's going to win that race. So I feel like that should be a win for everyone if you do your homework. But please win, Amy McGrath, because I don't want to look like a cuck loser again, which I guess is sort of
break out of the street, guys.
Yes. That's right. We're gonna do it. We're gonna get over this. This too shall pass. We're gonna start winning. We're gonna stop talking about conspiracy theories to describe why we lost.
Every rose has its thorn, gentlemen.
So true. I'm gonna listen to that song on the way out today. Fellas, this has been great. Zoltar, you want to say goodbye?
Folks, it's been a rough patch, but stick with us. Good principles, good bets. Have some rough patches. Every rose has its thorn. This was definitely a rough patch for us, but I see greener pastures ahead.
Well, those who trust in Zoltar will be rewarded. So I'm gonna trust you yet again. PJ,
Well, not
you
perfect,
want to holler?
but I will make you money.
PJ, you got anything for your fans?
No, I'm good.
I have nothing. My heart is on the table. If you're still listening to this, you're my favorite person. We'll be back with more soon. This has been Star Spangled Gamblers. Check out the blog.